Welcome to the Cyber Tech Podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. Your host, Mike Fierros, will dive deep into the world of IT and cybersecurity, bringing you the stories and insights of professionals who are making waves in the field. From how they got started, to their most exciting projects, and their advice for aspiring tech enthusiasts, we cover it all. So, whether you're an industry veteran or just getting started, join us as we explore the fascinating minds behind the technology that shapes our world. Let's get started.
Hey guys, how's it going? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. This is the very first episode of 2025, episode number 11 with the Cyber Tech Podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. If you guys haven't listened to this podcast, this is for anybody that's interested in technology, cybersecurity, those that want to get into IT, cybersecurity fields, and those also already in the industry. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys had a really great, happy New Year and Christmas. This first episode kicking off, it's going to be a really nice one, guys. This interview is another gentleman from the Yuma, Arizona area. This gentleman grew up in Somerton in Yuma County, and he's going to share his story, how he got into cybersecurity. And this gentleman's name is Jesus Cervantes. He is the Deputy Chief Information Officer of Yuma County Information Technology Services. How's it going, Jesus?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. And I know the pressure's on. I don't know, you gave like an awesome intro. I kind of feel nervous now. I'm like, I don't know. Gotta deliver.
No, you're good. No, you're good, Jesus. No, like even just this week break I had, or 2 weeks break I had, I got a lot of messages from people from different backgrounds, different age groups, just wanting to get cybersecurity. They're just hungry and they're passionate. They want to get into the field. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to have you on as the first episode of the year to kind of fill that hunger, if you will, for those people that want to get to cybersecurity, even IT too. So thanks for your time, Jesus.
Yeah, no, not a problem. I've kind of worked my way up, to the position I'm in right now. I am as you mentioned, the Deputy Chief Information Officer for the county. But before that, I guess going back 3 years, I was a security administrator for Yuma County, so I oversaw the county's cybersecurity program. You could say that I'm the one that built it out because there was really no official program within the county that had that. And in doing so, it kind of allowed me to go out there and really explore and get my hands dirty, right, as to what cybersecurity really was. Because when you hear the word cybersecurity, a lot of people kind of envision that cybersecurity is, that group of individuals that companies have locked up in a basement somewhere in the dark. They're just looking at monitors. They're just looking at screens that have different colors and images on them. No, cybersecurity is really a very broad area that has a lot of areas to focus, right? You have I always joke about it. I say it's the boring side, right? The GRC side, the government compliance and regulatory side. But, there's some people that enjoy it, so I'm not going to hate on it. And you also have of course, the analytical side of the house, right? You have your security analysts that are looking through logs. They're looking at alerts. They're the first, responders, you could say, to any incident or any weirdnesses that occur. Then one area that's often left out too is that outreach side, right? The training, the ones that are out there reminding our employees, our personnel, to not click on those weird emails that come in. Hey, you've had a package delivered at your house. Click here to confirm. Or even as something as simple as, I know we do it at our organization, is finding USBs, like in break rooms or in the restroom, out in the parking lot, the funner side of the house. So, but yeah, cybersecurity is very unique in that sense that it's never going to be the same thing every day. You're always going to be presented with a different challenge. And that's what I like. And that's what I kind of always sell when I'm at a career fair or giving a talk about what it is to work in cybersecurity, because you're never going to have a dull moment. It's almost a guarantee.
Yeah, that's so true. And also shout out to my GRC folks listening to this episode right here. I myself go in GRC and exposure risk management and stuff like that. But like you mentioned, Jesus, there's all kinds of areas in cybersecurity where you can find yourself working in a role and enjoying what you're doing and whatnot. Jesus, explain a little about yourself, where you're from, and how you got into cybersecurity.
Well, I am originally from here in the Yuma area. I actually grew up in Somerton. I attended Cibola High, right? Graduated in 2004. So, hey, class of 2004 listeners, if you guys are out there. I went to AWC, our local community college. But I'll say this, cybersecurity and IT wasn't my first career choice. I actually wanted to be a civil engineer. But then, things happen, financial aid, monies of that sort. And then one day, one of my buddies asked me, hey, you're good with computers. Can you take a look at this? From there on, I just dabbled in it, and I just kept doing hands-on reading, kind of doing like YouTube was brand new back in the day, right? So I kept looking at those, watching those videos, and just hands-on stuff. And that's what kind of led me to IT. And then from IT, I jumped into cybersecurity because, like all of us, at some point, we're going to do our time in the salt mines, which is working like service desk or customer service. I did that as my first career. So I was working a service desk for the local high school here. Not to say that was a bad career, right? But it kind of also exposed me to what IT was, because my belief is you need to know the basics before you can actually learn the advanced stuff. And I want to say that working service desk, working as a computer technician, working as a network specialist, all that built me up to be the person I am right now, and know cybersecurity, because I know the different facets that make up an IT environment. Because if you just focus on one area, then that's all you're going to know, right? You're not going to be able to think out of the box. And cybersecurity really requires you to think out of the box, because you're going to be presented with problems that may or may not have a solution. You may be the one that comes up with the solution to that problem. So I think that helps a lot. As I mentioned, I did work through all those different positions. I don't have a 4-year degree. That is one thing I always highlight. It's like, because when I've talked at all these career first presentations, one of the biggest questions or the questions that always comes up is like, but hey, don't you need that 4-year degree? Don't you need that 4-year degree to jump into cybersecurity? Don't you need that 4-year degree to be in leadership? The answer is not necessarily, because I went down the certification track. What I lack in a 4-year state school degree, I make up for in certifications that highlight my skill set. They validate my knowledge. One of the biggest ones that I have my CISSP. So I am a certified information system security professional through ISC Square. That is, and it's debatable, right? Some individuals will argue on this, but that is the gold standard when it comes to cybersecurity certifications.
Yeah.
I did attend the ISC Square conference earlier last year, or late last year, I should say. And worldwide, there's approximately 170,000 certified CISSPs. And that number keeps growing because there is that interest, right? And once again, that is the gold standard across the board when it comes to basically showing that you are knowledgeable in that field. Now, I'll say this, that doesn't mean that you are a super whiz at cybersecurity, right? That you're like that stereotypical guy that's sitting in a hoodie and is like, cool, I just broke this encryption in like 2 seconds. No. What that certification says is that you're well-rounded. You look at the operational side of the house, the business side of the house, what has a major impact on things, right? It's not just the technical side. Once again, not to, I guess, rain on GRC, but I'll throw this out there. That's my next certification through IC Square, right? I'm working towards my GRC certification for them, because that is also a integral part of cybersecurity. Without it, one can't live without the other. You're going to have compliance, governance, and regulatory items that affect cybersecurity on the daily. But going back to myself, like I said, I am from the area. I did attend Cibola High, AWC, and have worked pretty much in a lot of different organizations here. Like I know I worked for the Technology Consortium. I know some of the listeners are currently there or were from the old school like YTC days. I also worked at the hospital. I worked out at YPG. So I've kind of worked everywhere, but it's always been to kind of expose myself to a greater amount of knowledge, right? It's always been to build myself up. So it's never been like you know what, I'm bored or I'm following the money. It's always been to really build my skill set and knowledge up.
I think
that
that's
was like
awesome.
very long-winded.
No, you're good. So you guys, check that out. ISC Square. I'll put on the show notes on here too, what we're talking about, that you guys get more information on their certifications and whatnot. But I think that's awesome, Jesus, that you went to Cibola High School locally in Yuma Community College, and then gone to workforce right away. You changed your studies. I see that as a frequent from most people, either IT or cybersecurity, where it's like, for me, I went to school for media arts, and now I'm working in risk management, GRC space, and I wasn't planning to do that whatsoever. That wasn't my goal in life. When I was 19, 18, I was a different person. But that's so, I think that's really awesome. I think that's a really good path you took right there. Really, really good. You mentioned you had a friend of yours that needed computer help, but when did you say, you know what, I'm really serious. I want to get into IT. I want to get into cybersecurity. What was that? When that light bulb turned on your head, it's like, I want to do this the rest of my life.
I guess it wasn't just like a singular moment that kind of had that light bulb turn on. I was actually at a career fair out at AWC, right? I was I was like in between classes, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check this place out and see what they have out there. I was actually there for the swag. I'm not gonna lie, right? You always get that
Nice.
swag, free
Yeah.
backpack, pencil, whatever. But anyways, there was a company out there. I think it was I forgot what their. I think it was Northrop Grumman. They had a booth out there, so they were recruiting for their technical services team. And I went out there and talked to them, and they gave me the quick like 30-minute or 30-second speech about why you should join the company. But I was like, cool, I'm actually interested in the technology side of the house. And all right, cool. Then since I was the only person at the booth, they kind of gave me more of their time, and they walked me through what it was to be a computer technician. Once again,
Mm.
I was barely kind of getting my feet wet into what IT was, so that kind of interested me. And once again, to be straightforward, I was like, cool. Once I saw the salary attached with it, I was like, you know what? This may be a career that I could really jump into. Uh, so that helped me out. But I guess what really made me focus in IT as something that I could really jump into, or what planted the seed, would be at Cibola High when I was a junior and a senior there. They had a computer repair class. It was computer repair 1 and 2. And if some of your listeners were in high school with me or same age, they remember Manuel Felix, Mr. Felix, right? He taught that class. So that was my first exposure to IT repair and the IT realm. And I know that he was prepping us to take the A+ certification, so that when we graduated, we would not only have our high school diploma, but we'd at least have our entry level certs. So that kind of was my first exposure to it. But at the end of the day, right, the career booth at AWC with the salary was the one that really pushed me into IT. But that was my journey into it, and from there I just kept building on it. And that was just IT, right? Just the customer service side of the house, PC repair. Cybersecurity came into the mix because at work it was a, hey, you know what? Some cybersecurity stuff. That's now your responsibility. So it was more of a, you either sink or swim, and I am glad that I swam. Right, I made a
Nice.
career choice right there and then to focus on cybersecurity and just built on it.
Shout out to Cibola High School. I graduated Yuma High School locally here in Yuma in 2002. So Cibola, if anybody doesn't know, Cibola High School at that time, at least for in my eyes, was like a pinnacle of like technology, because you guys had computer repair, you had media arts like classes there, to your production. Yuma High, we didn't have anything. We did, however, have like electronics classes. So I took electronics 1, 2 with Mr. Anderson. And then he had like a little, it wasn't really a credited class, but it was like a quick like, oh, this is how you repair a computer type class. And I was a teacher aide there and whatnot. But to get, kind of get interested in having a teacher like that, like Mr. Felix at Cibola High School, that taught that right there. I think that's awesome. What lessons did you learn from your early role as a computer technician and IT support that you still use today?
I guess one of the biggest lessons that I learned, and I still use it today, is that always question everything. Always be the one that has that question that hasn't been asked yet, and ask it. Right. That is one of the first things that I learned. Whether it was my first day as a computer technician to even today being the deputy CIO for the county, is always ask those questions. No matter if they're gonna either upset a person, ruffle feathers, rattle a cage, ask those questions, because sometimes that question may be the make or break moment for that project, that initiative, that conversation. So that's one of the, I guess, lessons learned that I've carried throughout my career in IT, is always be the one that asks those questions, no matter what.
That's really good. That's a good gem right there for sure. This is your role as deputy CIO for Yuma County, Arizona. What's your day workload look like?
It's always something different. I could be sitting in a meeting in the morning. From there, I could be assisting our desktop support team deploy equipment. I could be moving stuff in the warehouse. I could be sitting in a governance, a GRC meeting with our auditors and our risk management team. I am all over the place. My day to day is, if you look at my calendar, you wouldn't believe the amount of items that are on there. It looks like a Christmas tree, I guess, if you want a visualization. And it's all color coded, right? Because I am very particular when it comes to scheduling stuff. I have a different
Nice.
color code for what type of meeting or event or action I'm supposed to take at that time. But my day is pretty much busy from the moment I get here at 8 a.m. to the moment I leave at 5. And then there's sometimes where I start off the day at like 5 or 6 in the morning at home and don't finish till like 8 or 9 when I get home. It just depends what's going on, especially if we do have like major events going on. I know the county is the main organization that conducts elections, right? So during election time, we are basically attached to our phones and email 24/7 till the election ends. So it's always a varying, I guess, amount of items that I'm focused on or taking care of. It's never going to be a dull moment.
What you guys do at the county government level is very different from what I do in what I do for like the MSP level. Can you kind of explain the difference, Jesus, from working IT or cybersecurity at the county level versus maybe working IT for like a school district or for a private company or for like an MSP or MSSP?
One of the biggest differences is all the red tape. But now, joking aside, the biggest difference is like if you're in private sector, like I worked for the hospital, I did work for a contractor out at YPG. Things move very quick, right? It is
Mm,
almost like from one day to another. If a resource is needed, a project is being required to be completed by X date, there's always going to be that quick push. Now, government, local government, even at the federal government sector, any type of government, you run across those roadblocks sometimes. Now, those roadblocks sometimes seem like they're a hassle to deal with. They can be, right? But I have learned with throughout all these years that they're there for a reason, right? Going back to having the ability to have actions audited, to be validated, to have proper budgets identified. And then the other major thing, right, is being local government. We don't provide or sell a service, right? Like if we were Google or Amazon or any of those companies, because they are providing selling you a service, right? One
mm,
way or another. Like your email isn't truly free. You are paying for it in one way or another. Or if you do pay for some other subscription services, right, you are paying them. Whereas with local government, we don't sell a service. Our service is customer service, right? We make sure that you are able to pay your taxes, that you are able to vote, that you are able to visit the local health district to get your vaccinations, that you are able to basically conduct any business that impacts you from the local government level. So that is one of the major differences, that we have to make sure that these services are up and running no matter what. Private sector, not so much, right? Because at the end of the day, if they're down, and they're not really going to worry about it because they're still going to make whatever money's on the side or whatever they're doing, right? The other difference is that with local government, you have more of a impact locally, right? Hence the name local government.
sure.
Whereas these major corporations, I mean, they're typically housed or headquartered in another state, a different country, and don't have that real connection with the local community. Whereas we do. Our IT department and even some of our other county departments, for example, we have participation in virtual internships, right? That is one of the biggest things that we have been focusing on, especially within the IT department. We've gone through 3 groups already where they are local high school students, right? They are getting that first exposure to cybersecurity or IT. And these 3 different groups that we've had, they've all been presented with a real world problem, a problem that even our regular staff here, our regular team members at the county are working on. And I am happy to say that
Nice.
every single time those 3 internship groups that we've had, they've come up with the same answer and recommendations that our consultants have, that our local
Nice.
team members have. So it's like we have a lot of talent here in our area. And I'm happy to say that I am trying to grow that internship to not be
Mm,
just virtual, but also be hands on, right? To expose those students who want to join the IT workforce into what it is, whether it's with our cybersecurity team, our applications team, network, our storage, even our service desk, right? Because we all start there at some point. We start at the level 1, tier 1 support group, and we build ourselves up. One of the main points that I always throw out there too is that in IT, there's 2 different tracks. You have the technical track, and then you have the leadership track. Now, at
mm,
year probably 10 to 12 of your IT career, you're going to come to that fork in the road where it's like, you know what, do I continue being in the technical side of the house? Do I like being a security analyst? Do I like being a network engineer? Do I like being a programmer? Or hey, do I want to jump into the leadership aspect? You know, do I want to be CIO, deputy CIO, or a CTO, whatever it may be, right? A CISO as well. So I always highlight that aspect, that just because you are in IT doesn't mean you're forever going to be in the technical side of the house. You can always shift gears and jump to the leadership side. But going back to it, yeah, I mean, I know your original question was what's the major difference, and I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
No, you're good.
I think that's one of the distinguishing items between local government versus maybe a private sector organization is just that ability to interact and give back to the community that you're in.
That's awesome. And the county, I think any county, whether it's Yuma County, Maricopa, or even maybe in Riverside County, California, or any county around the country, it's vital to have those services. Like you mentioned, Jesus, healthcare, you have election services, which is really, really important. Law enforcement, public, first responders. It's vital. And then resources, you guys kind of help, especially here in Yuma County, you guys kind of help protect the systems that human resources information and stuff like that to follow stuff for the county. And so I like that distinction you made. Jesus, looking back, what would you tell your younger self about preparing for this industry?
One of the things that I would tell myself, my younger self, was, and I do it now, and I even throw it out there to others as kind of my advice, is to never settle when you're told no, because I heard that many a times, right? Like, no, this is not the career for you, or no, you were not selected for this, or no, this isn't for you. This is not something that individuals like you typically go into. That was one of the major hurdles that I ran across during my early years, and especially jumping into IT. That would be one of the things that if I could tell my younger self is be like, always question the no. Ask why. You don't have to not accept it, but you need to have a reason as to why that no exists, a good reason. Not just accept it at face value, or someone says, no, this is just not for you, and you give up. Because I did it a few times, and I do kick myself, right? Because I was like, no, that would have been the moment where I would have given different opportunities, different doors would have opened, right? But then again, right, I am where I am right now as well, because eventually I did grow and realize that myself. But maybe having learned it earlier, that would have been a different career track kind of starter for me.
Going to different interviews, whether IT or cybersecurity, like, getting that no. For those of you listening, just like as Seuss mentioned, when you go into these interviews, even you have those no's, don't give up. I think that's the biggest thing. Don't give up. Keep pursuing these positions that are open out there. Keep being involved. Listen to podcasts like this one. Just don't give up and continue to push. Just remember why you got or why you're choosing this industry, and those are in industry, keep growing and whatnot. I think that's a really good gem right there. Another gem right there, Jesus, for sure. What drives you personally to excel in a demanding role like a deputy CIO?
I guess the real drive for me is I compete with myself, right? I always try to outdo myself, right? I never try to outdo others, because my personal point of view on that is the moment you try to compare yourself and outdo others, you're gonna fail. You are gonna fail and crash and burn. So if you are gonna compete with someone or compare yourself, do it with yourself, because at the end of the day, that's who you really are trying to build up. It's yourself. You don't
Mm,
want to be like, I'm gonna be like person XYZ, because the moment you become person XYZ, then you lose yourself, your originality. You're not really gonna be yourself. You're not gonna grow yourself to that full potential. So it's always that. It's just that is my drive. I challenge myself every day to be better at everything that I am doing. Now, some people have called me insane for doing that, right? They're like, wait a minute, you're going to burn yourself out and stuff like that, which, may be true for the most part, but I think that won't be till like maybe decades from now. But if I can do it right now, I'm going to keep pushing myself to do better every day. And at the same time, pushing others around me to build themselves, be the best that they can be, not give up, right? Not throw in the towel, not
mm,
take that no, the final answer to everything. It's like, no, because now I'm not saying everyone is going to keep up, right? But I'm not going to trip them either. I'm not like if it was a race that we were running, I'm not going to put my foot out and have them fall and fail because I want to be the one that wins. Like, no, in IT, we are all trying to build each other up in one way or another.
mm.
It's whether it be through kind of having those networking events, exchanging, if you're still old school, right, business cards
Yeah.
at conferences, to being out in the community, right, community events, still being on that whole our internship program. And I know the county, I believe on the later this month, I believe it's on the 24th, is holding its, I believe it's the third annual Career and Technical Education Day with the
Nice.
local high schools. And that exposes high school students to the different careers that the county offers, right? Whether it's with us in IT or with public works, fleet services, the health district, county departments will have representation there. And that is always awesome because that is part of that drive, right? Trying to build those around
Mm,
you. And of course, I'll be out there, right? So if any of your listeners
nice.
do have kids in high school, and they'll probably be like, "Yeah, county IT was out there." But anyways, circling back, that's what drives me is just trying to compete with myself to better myself every single day.
That's such a good that's really good advice right there, Jesus. Especially in the IT cybersecurity industries where it's like one day it's you're busy, you're doing a bunch of stuff, and the next day it could be calm. Or it could be on a Friday, 5 minutes till you get off, and all of a sudden everything blows up, and you have to rush and do stuff. Giving high school students, youth out there, to get a chance of getting what's like to be in IT and cybersecurity at an early age. Because I remember being in high school myself and in late 90s, early 2000s, there was really nothing out there as far as like learning computers and stuff like that. I tinkered with stuff, but there was no one, at least at the high school level, that was talking about IT or even cybersecurity back then. Jesus, if someone wanted to get a hold of you to get some career advice, maybe some career advice to get into cybersecurity, where would they get a hold of you?
If anybody had any questions on career advice or just in general, right? Of course, I'm not going to give you like the trade secrets that we have at the county,
Yeah, yeah.
but if it's just like a hey, what was XYZ, right? You guys can find me on LinkedIn. Reach out through to me through there. Send me a message. If you do say that you heard the podcast, right? So I know that you're not spam or just like a
Yeah.
bot, because unfortunately LinkedIn has fallen a victim to that. There's a lot of spam and bots doing a lot of
Oh
messaging.
yeah.
But I'd say that if any of the listeners do want to like hit me up about career advice or how to get into XYZ or even about the search, right, that I hold, reach out to me through LinkedIn. I am always definitely going to be that resource. That, or if you do see me around at some of the job fairs or events, feel free to come up and ask me questions, right? I'm never going to say no or like I'm too busy. I do like to talk, right? Which is kind of, I don't know, weird to some people because if they see me, they're like, oh, you look unapproachable. But trust me, I really am approachable, right? I am really a talker. But yeah, LinkedIn would be an awesome way to reach out to me.
That's awesome. I'll make sure Jesus also to put your LinkedIn link on the podcast show notes. If you were the last person on earth, drink water or eat cookies, what would you choose and why?
That's a tough one, right? It's a because they're both good choices. I would probably say I'd take the water, right? As much as I enjoy cookies, but after a while, the cookies are going to dry out your mouth and you'll be wanting
True.
that water. Because I'm like, if I
Yeah.
have water, I can dip anything I find around and
Yeah.
imagine it's the cookies.
True. Yeah, I hear you on that. I know. I love me some oatmeal, but chocolate chip cookies are good too. But I agree. You gotta get that H2O in you. Thanks for your time, Jesus. I really appreciate it, Jesus. Like you being in cybersecurity, the position you're in, it's going to definitely inspire those that listen to this podcast, at different stages of life and whatnot. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and anytime, I like I mentioned, I do love to talk, and I know there's like tons of other subjects we can touch base on, even like from the interviewing and recruiting side of the house. I've been on both sides, and I do have a lot of good insight on that. But yeah, and anytime, just let me know. Thanks for having me on. It was an awesome interview, and I do apologize if I sounded nervous. I kind of do that
good
with the non-face-to-face interviews for the most part. But nonetheless, thank you for having me on.
You guys listen to Jesus Cervantes. He's the Deputy Chief Information Officer, Yuma County, Arizona. Episode number 11 of the CyberTech Podcast, Inside the Minds of Everyday IT and Cyber Pros. See you guys.